Go ahead. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
This is the Audit Committee, and Elaine is here to talk about the 2020 audit. Take it away, Elaine.
Okay, thank you very much. You should have copies of the financial statements in front of you. They should have been distributed a bit ago. The audit went very well. We had no problems with the audit. The procedures went very well, and books and records were in very good shape. Certainly a special thanks to Tracy and Taylor for getting us all the information we needed in a timely fashion so that we could go through this work in I think record time. The audit went very smooth. One item that I wanted to note is that in our testing, there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. We tested internal controls. The items that we tested, there were no issues with them, and they are operating as they've been designed. As far as journal entries, we only had a minor reclassification entry. There was an entry that was posted in the system once, more than one time, in order to get retained earnings to balance, so we had to reverse an entry. But other than that, we had no journal entries that were needed. I want to go through the financial statement and see if there's any questions. As far as on page 1 is the independent auditor's report. It is an unqualified opinion. The financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Pages 3, 4, and 5 are the management discussion and analysis portion. This is provided by Tracy, and you should look through it before the financial statements are finalized if there need to be any changes from management. Starting on page 6 is the statement of financial position. One of the things you'll notice this year, because the previous year we only had a single year presentation, this year we're able to go back to a dual. The accounting standards for the revenue recognition has been implemented, and you'll see we'll be talking about it in a few different places this year. Looking at cash and cash equivalents, you'll see that the cash went up significantly during the year. Main reason for that is if you look at the investments, you had a 2-year CD that matured, and that amount was moved into a savings account. So it went from your investment line up into the cash and cash equivalents line. That makes up a significant portion of the difference in the increase. The other difference in the increase is the project fees, your profit from the share. You had more projects, and you were quite profitable this year from your activities. Your total assets increased from $1,569,000 to $1,578,000 for the year. As far as your expenses, there's one item I wanted to talk about just briefly, and that's the grant payable. This is from Clarity, the Clarity Connect grant. And this has been sitting outstanding on your books for a long time. There's some paperwork that the organization is supposed to give you so that you can disperse these funds. And as of this time, they still have not been, the paperwork has still not been received. So it's something I think that the organization should follow up on, because it's been 4 or 5 years since this money was given to you to disperse to them.
You should be good now.
Questions on the statement of financial position? I'm on page 6.
Oh, okay. I was wondering the difference between those two different types of bank accounts. Change how you rate that from an investment to cash.
Because it was a 2-year CD, and anything cash and cash equivalent is under a 3-month amount. So if you had a 3-month CD, it would be in cash and cash equivalents. If you have a CD that's longer than 3 months, it's considered an investment.
Thank you.
Yep. Other questions on the statement of financial position? Okay. Moving on to the statement of revenue expenses. You'll see that the project, you had several new projects again this year, so your administrative fee income actually went up for the year from $86,000 to $90,000. As far as
Elaine?
property tax, yes,
As you're going through, can you just let them know which page you're moving through?
sure. I'm on page 7. I'm trying to get it done before the next committee starts. Page 7, on operating if you look at your operating expenses decreased from 58,000 to 47. The major decrease in this area is your property taxes. It went from 18,000 to 6,000 because during the year you actually filed and got your property tax exemption on that piece of property that you were paying property taxes on. Under your non-operating income, you'll see the interest income went from 12,326 to 3,700. That decrease really was because in 2019 and before you had some CDs that were earning a really great interest rate. And unfortunately, those rates aren't available anymore. So that interest income decreased significantly. So your net change in position for the year was 50,543. If we can skip over to page 9, this is a statement of cash flows. And if you look at about halfway down the page, you'll see cash and cash equivalents beginning was $760,000. The ending was $881,000. So your cash went up by $121,000 for the year. Where did it come from? Mainly from operations. If you look about a third of the way down, you'll see that the net provided by operating activities was $52,000, and from investing activities was $69,000. So in the investing activity, you paid out for some sewer work that was capitalized, and you also sold those investments or redeemed the CDs, and that provided additional cash. As far as the statements, the notes to the financial statements, there were a lot of changes last year, in 2019, 2020. Things have settled down in the accounting world a little bit, thank goodness. There's just a couple footnotes that I want to bring your attention to on page 11. There's the revenue recognition footnote, and this talks about how you recognize your revenue from your administrative services and your application fees. This was implemented last year in 2019. On page 13 is a summary of the pilots that you have. You have 9 pilots currently at the end of the year. And the taxes collected for the pilots totaled $502,847. Note 3 shows the detail that you had the CDs and what the cash and fair value was. If we move over to page 15, this is the report on internal controls for governmental purposes. And as I said at the beginning of the presentation, there were no findings. Page 17 is the report on compliance with the Public Authorities Law, and nothing came to our attention that you are not in compliance. Questions or concerns from the Audit Committee?
That was all done internally. The accomplishments report, mission or measurement, and the Paris reporting is all done by us. Okay.
Does she use that evaluation providing this audit with from our values?
I think we used hers in doing that report. Oh, thank you.
She didn't use the one that's in here.
So I think they are the same, and they're based on the assessments of the properties. I think they mostly.
This is probably, if I could just question the most glaring one, there's a 4-acre one that's valued at $350,000. What 4 acres do we have that worth $350,000?
That's the parcel at the front. So the two parcels that we just purchased a couple of years ago, that's the one directly on the road. So it's right on 5 and 20, or what is it over there? Is it 5 and 20 there? Yeah.
And the first parcel that is 1.7 acres at 513,000. Same parcel that we're talking about.
That's the parcel on the.
I'm on page 4 of the next part, and that's not part of the audit, but if they're using those numbers, I was just wondering.
That's the one that's directly on the road on the other side of the street. The one that is right next to where Aspen Dental was. We had that parcel right next door to where was it Aspen Dental that was right there? Yeah, like the one right on the road on the corner of Eagle Drive.
Johnson. Right in front of Johnson Paper.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's another
And
street.
then where is the other one?
One of them is on one side of the road, the other is on the other side of the road.
Of Eagle Drive.
Of 5 and 20. So one is where the mall sign is,
Okay.
and one is on the corner of Eagle Drive.
Okay, so
Yeah.
one of those very valuable parcels is the parcel that we just bought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
There.
Yes.
Hey, Elaine,
Yes,
can I just ask, going back to that grant payable?
yes.
I mean, real quickly, what does the company need to do to get us to pay this out?
Actually, that's something, go ahead, Tracy. That's something Tracy would handle. There's paperwork that needs to be, that they need to submit to you. Tracy, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay, okay.
Oh, I'm over here. Yes, they would need to submit documentation for reimbursement. So they would submit us receipts and a report of what they spent the money on. That money in particular came from one of the towns. So they just have not submitted for that disbursement.
And Tracy, when is the last time we spoke to them
It's
regarding
been a
this?
while now. It was, I think it was the end, it might have been the end of 2019. I had checked in with him, but it's been a while now.
And final question on this is, and maybe Elaine, you can answer this. I mean, is there a time where, or a time frame that elapses that we can, whoever gave us the grant, we can just give it back to them?
I think we're probably approaching that time. There wasn't a timeline specified in the agreement, I don't believe. But I think we're kind of at that point where we should probably approach them and say, if you don't want this $10,000, just let us know.
Okay.
We'll give it back.
Okay.
Because it's been, what, 5-6 years now?
At least.
Yeah. So I'll reach back out here in the next month and try to get some conclusions on this. Who do we have on the phone? Is that Janine?
Janine. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
I've tried to mute it, but I can't do it this way, so sorry. I'm trying to be quiet.
Is John the only one from the board that's on the phone?
Ben is here. Debbie, can we get 1 or 2 more of those sheets when you have a second? The contact tracing. Thanks. Debbie's listening.
So as far as the audit committee, I don't know who's the chair of the audit committee.
I was wondering if
I second that.
That's it. Thank you, Debbie. I think Gina needs one, and then I'll just hold another one. Okay, so is there any other business for the audit committee?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the audit committee?
I'll move.
Thank you, Herb.
Thank you, Elaine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. There's no possible way to get a good camera angle in this room with us sitting like this, I don't think so, or with this happening. So we're gonna do the best we can. We might have to shuffle mics around a little bit as we go, just because of how far everybody is. I was trying to make it so that we pick up most of everything, but I think it's gonna be rough. So we'll do our best.
Can you just keep track of who's there since I can't see the whole room?
Oh, yeah. So Taylor, do you want to do a roll call?
I can.
And then we'll give it over to Paul to get started.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Lockwood,
I think I gave you one of these.
Mr. Rhinefuss, is he there, Tracy?
He's here.
Okay. Mr. Vitale,
Present.
Mr. Lattimore,
Yes.
He's here.
Mr. Marshall,
Here.
Mr. Latinisham,
Here.
and Ms. Spino.
Here. She's here.
Okay.
Okay. Herb, would you mind sharing your mic with Paul?
We need, I can, this is almost fine. And I'll give it between us. We both got the shots. Yeah. Okay.
Does everybody have the shots? I do not have the shot. Do you have the shot? Do you have the shot? Is everybody vaccinated? Am I the only one left? Okay. Thank you. I feel left out. Okay.
Everybody is theoretically safe.
Most people.
Most people except you
Not
and
me.
me in the
Not
corner.
her.
Okay, so do we start now?
Yes.
And, motion to accept the minutes for last meeting? Second, okay, all in favor? All right.
Aye.
Tracy,
Andy and Gina.
thank you.
Mr. Lattimore, yes, sir. Start the meeting, if I could address Tracy with this. I don't know that we, can you hear me? I don't know that we've ever done this, but Louis Quill died on Saturday night, and he, I believe, was the first chairman of this board. And he and David Carroll basically started this board to complement what Paul's father was doing in the city. And I would think that maybe we could send him or his family a card.
Do you have an address? I'm sure there's probably an obituary, right?
And there's a significant obituary.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Me and my father had a lot of fun. Oh my God. Battling each other. Yes. Okay. Anything else, sir? You're gonna walk me through this process here, is that we make a motion to pay the bills. You wanna go through them?
Yep. Taylor, can you go through the bills?
Yes, so we have the NISAC payment for February for 161.57. The payment for the Probst Group in the amount of $9,847.40.75. And then we have a pilot payment, which totaled, let's see. Total $211,000.
accept those? I'll second. Okay, all in favor? Unfinished business, update on the sewer line.
Okay.
Now
Wait,
we're-
Tracy,
Yes.
report of the treasurer, did we skip that?
Yes, we did. We can go back to it though. Let's
No,
get the,
please, let's go back.
let's
You
get
gotta
the
keep
sewer
me in
line
line.
done.
Okay.
We're trying to get our guests out the door.
Go ahead, report of the treasurer.
Go ahead, Taylor.
Oh, okay, well, that works too. For the profit and loss budget report, we have $30.37 for the gas lease revenue. The savings account earned $82.48, which left us the total income of $112.85. The audit charge came to the amount of $2,500. Then you see facilities and equipment, which is the Probst Group payment for $4,328.80. We have the industrial park electric bill for $161.57, which our total expense was $6,990.37, which our net income was negative $6,877.52. And at the bottom, you see the breakdown of all the accounts. The restricted is the pilot payments that need to be dispersed. And then for the pilot payment disbursement report, all the payments have come in. On the report, you will see that Hugo Milk is not on here. I received that yesterday, so that will be dispersed tonight, which was included in the pilot payment that I reported out. So everyone has been paid and they'll be sent out to the proper places. And that is it.
Sorry. Go ahead.
You're talking to me?
Um,
Are you talking to yourself?
A little bit of both, but go ahead, continue.
Do we need any motions on that?
Yes, please.
Motion to accept the treasurer's report?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and now we can go to unfinished business. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm thinking we might want to do Elaine first. That might go a little quicker, and then Elaine can go for the audit. Yes.
Okay, Elaine, are you there?
I am. Just a little bit ago, I met with the audit committee and reviewed the financial statement with them. I'd like to just go through a few highlights of the financial statement and talk about a couple things that we had discussed at the audit committee. First of all, I just want to report that the audit went very well. It was very smooth. Thank you to Taylor and to Tracy for all their help and assistance in getting us through all the information that we needed in a very quick amount of time. In our audit procedures, we did not find any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in your internal controls. There are no items to report as far as issues and findings. I want to just hit a couple highlights on the financial statements. If we can turn to page 6. You'll see that your total assets increased from $1,569,000 to $1,578,000. Your total assets consist primarily of cash of $881,000. Capital assets of $647 and some investments. During the year, you had one CD that came due, and that amount was transferred from investments to your cash into a savings account. As far as liabilities on your balance sheet, you really only had a few items: accounts payable and grants, an amount of grants payable. I think some of you might have come in on the tail end of that conversation in regards to that amount still being outstanding, and that Tracy's going to be following up on that. On page 7 is the statement of revenue and expenses. Your revenue for the year was 90,581,000. Operating expenses were 47,345, which left operating income, net income, at 43,236. Your non-operating income totaled 7,307 for a change or profit for the year of 50,543. So all in all, the agency had a very good year. Lots of projects, a couple new pilots, and for a year that's had so many challenges, it's good to see that businesses are still reaching out to your organization and things are still moving forward and we're growing. Questions?
Yes,
Comments?
my question is that we received this draft, or whatever it is today. Do we have to vote on that in the same day? We do not have a significant amount of time to review it.
So this needs to be approved for the Paris reporting, which is due at the end of March. This gets submitted with all of the other Paris reporting documents. So if you did not want to vote on it today, we would need to schedule a special meeting before the end of the month.
Well, I guess I don't like the timing, and could we next time have it 30 days before that date?
Elaine, is that
the
doable?
audit was actually, I can look to see when the draft was actually sent. The draft was sent to Tracy probably 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was sent, I think, at the beginning of this month. So we could send it earlier in the month for you to review, because it went out with a packet last week.
Exactly. Usually what happens, yeah.
Is that, would you just want it earlier, or do you want 2 meetings?
I don't know about everybody else.
We could make arrangements another year, even if we postpone our regular meeting a week, so that we could
Digest it.
yeah, go over that and then vote on it.
I think we got it. A week, 2 weeks would be plenty. No, we got 2 weeks ahead of time, that should suffice.
Okay, so something.
No, I mean.
My frustration is that here we are today, voting on it today. So I would like to make it in some process that we get it ahead of time.
You want it more than a week ahead of time of the
Yes.
meeting. You want, so in the future, we could send,
Well,
do you want to?
She sent out 3 weeks ahead of time.
Right, but we have always sent it with the meeting packet.
Well, I would like it before.
So if we send it closer to the beginning of the month, are you looking for 2 meetings to discuss it, or is it, do you just want it earlier in the month to review it?
Personally, I think 2 weeks to discuss it would make sense, because we can all talk about.
So that means we'll probably need to schedule an extra meeting next year, because even if we get this at the beginning of the month, that doesn't leave time for 2 regular board meetings.
As we creep up on the date next year, let's
We
Yeah.
can
Make a note.
discuss that at the time we start the audit next year.
Yeah, so maybe we can put a note in to discuss it in January, how you want to handle it.
yes, please.
I have one question. The change in that position is up, and that is even though we had a substantial decrease in interest income. Is that right?
Yes, your income was higher for the year for your project administrative fees, and your expenses were lower. So that provided you a higher amount of income.
And that compensated for the difference in the interest income.
Yes.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Yes. It'd be nice to be able to earn that type of income that you earned in 2018 and 2019. I think that was really some banks that were offering some extremely aggressive rates so that they were able to get deposits, and they were very short term in nature. John is shaking his head. Yes. So, if you remember back in 2018 and 2019, in Auburn, there was a couple new banks and I believe a credit union that all came in at once. And it was the banking was very aggressive. And that's kind of gone down and died out now. Back to reality.
There are no other questions.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So are we letting Elaine go now?
Yep. We're all set,
Thank you,
Elaine.
Elaine.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good meeting.
Thanks, Elaine.
Okay, Trish, now we're on.
You want to go back to the sewer? So we can, you want to go back to the sewer so that we can get that
Yeah.
done too? Okay. So I'm working with Chris at Probst Group and Dave Botar at the CNY Regional Planning and Development Board on the EDA application. Still trying to align the environmental needs for EDA. And we're working on that for phase 2. After putting together, the Probst Group did send me today a quote for engineering services for phase 1 and phase 2, as well as construction oversight. I know that we do want to get some quotes for a local firm to do construction oversight, but it gives us a good sense of what that might cost. They are doing some construction oversight for CMI during the phase 1 portion, so they will have someone in town anyway. So that's something to consider. Overall, for phase 1, once you include the engineering and oversight, we're talking about $130,000. And we have about $100,000 gap to fill after we consider the ESD funding. For phase 2, I'm just gonna pull this back around. Words. For phase 2, the total cost once you put in engineering, and I think the construction oversight will be a little bit less if we use someone locally, but we're looking at approximately a $950,000 project, and we're looking at it about $250,000 that we need to fill the gap for there. So a total of about $350,000 for the 2 phases once you consider the grant funding. CCIDA has covered engineering costs to this point to the tune of about $100,000. I think it was the intention to use that towards the equity injection for the ESD funding. So we could continue to look at the engineering costs for the project. But even still, taking out the 10% equity that's required from CCIDA, the grant from ESD, the grant from EDA, like I said, it's about $350,000 between the 2 phases that we're looking to fill. Dave did make me aware of a funding source that could be utilized for phase 2 as well, that could fill almost the entire gap for that portion. However, the award date for that, the application would be due in May, and the award date would not be until August 31st, so it would push the project out a little bit. It's also a funding source that I know the Cayuga Sewer and Water Authority tends to use for some of their projects, so we'd want to make sure that we're thinking holistically about that funding source and what projects might already be going into that funding source. So I'm going to look to have that conversation as well. But right now we really need to approach phase 1 since that is the immediate need. Like I said, there's about $100,000 there that is not covered by grant funding. So that's kind of where we are tonight in terms of the financing needs. And then we can continue to work on phase 2 and potentially find even more funding for it. So the engineering for phase 1 and phase 2 is another about $52,000 between the 2 phases. And then there's construction oversight costs as well, which Probst gave us numbers for, but I know we wanted to look at a local firm for that as well. So engineering and oversight, you said, is from what Probst gave us, is 176,000. Correct. So for phase 1, we can apply the ESD funding. For phase 2, and phase 2 can include construction, engineering, and the oversight portion as part of the soft costs. We've got the ESD funding, and we're applying for that EDA funding to help with that phase as well.
So, if I understand correctly, we have 20% funding for phase 1. For phase 2, we're going to have 20% funding if it goes through, and an additional 50% funding. So the total phase 2 project can be funded by about 70%.
Yes, we are looking at about 70% of the funding coming from grants. Yeah.
And that funding will cover the construction cost as well as the engineering and the oversight.
Yes, that is my understanding.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think you thought I was pushing you too hard before, and I don't mean to do that. But when do you anticipate you might have an answer on the other 50% funding?
So we're working on that application now, and summertime. It'll take a few weeks or a couple months once we put in the application, but
I think,
summertime.
I remember you said you thought you would have that ready to send in the end of this month.
Yeah, I think we'll have the application submitted this month, and then we'll get the answer.
Up to 2 months for them to
I think so.
review it and approve it.
I think so, yeah.
That would be April and May. So if that is the case, we would still be in a reasonably good construction time for the second phase.
Correct. So then it's a matter of looking at this other funding source. But I think that if we can get an award from them in the June-July timeframe, we've got plenty of time to make phase 2 happen. The way the bid package went out was to assume that phase 2 would start to commence in the July-August timeframe. So we're hopefully on track for that.
I asked the engineer at that meeting if there was a time frame where the bid price was still good.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I asked that, what we're looking at with the water and sewer authority, the price of pipe especially is going up substantially.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think that the price of interest is going to go up as we go along. And, okay, I thought possibly somebody from the 2 plants was going to be here today.
Yep, so we have Kevin Buckland from CMI.
Who are you with? Okay.
And then Kevin Ellis is on the screen from CMI. And Charlie Balco is from Grover.
We've approved the project, we've approved the bid on the first phase, and I think our engineer is encouraging them to get started. Is that going to be in a time frame that's satisfactory with you for you to implement your construction that you have just completed? Yes, so that would be completed by.
So first phase, we can get moving on that pretty quickly here. The intention is to have it started next month as long as the financing is all in place. I'm working with Rick on the contract documents with the construction company, so we're looking to move on that pretty quickly here.
Yeah, so our expansion is actually going to start up.
Tracy, we cannot hear them. We only are hearing is her. So any questions that are being answered, we're not picking up what they're saying.
get our portion of our line from our property out to the street, as long as we can get that done reasonably quickly, we should be fine.
And that, what he's talking about is what we call the first phase of this construction phase. Okay. So you and Kevin both think that we're on track to meet what your, needs are.
Yes, I would say as long as it doesn't go later than July timeframe, we should be fine.
I think if we work with the contractor and with, the engineer, that can help us.
Okay, great.
Tracy, this is Kevin, the other Kevin. Can you remind me? Yes, hello. Can you remind me what phase one and phase two encompasses again?
Sure. Phase one is the Eagle Drive component, which is where your main pinch point is right now. So that would expand the Eagle Drive line to the capacity to allow the capacity that we see on the other line. So it would eliminate that immediate pinch point that you've got. Phase two is the force main, which is where the substantial increase comes.
Correct. So phase one will get us to how many gallons per day of capacity?
Sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head.
Nor do I, which is why I'm asking the question.
I know. I know.
Like back to him after talking with the engineer, right?
Yeah, I've got it in the documents. I just need to find the right document.
I just want to be comfortable because Charlie's on the phone too, and Kevin Buckland thinks we're going to be up around 450,000 gallons a day just from CMI. Add on top of that Charlie's volume. I just want to make sure that we're still good with phase one. I understand phase two development is going to tie in with our next expansion project, which is another load that almost doubles our current load.
Phase two is the force main,
Yes.
and we anticipate if this funding goes like we think it's gonna go, that would be constructed this year, and that is supposed to be considerably more than adequate for your second expansion. Is that what your question is?
Yes, it is, Herb.
Yeah, so the second one will get us, the ideal is to have the second one get us up to, I think, 2 million a day or 2 million. I don't know which measurement it is.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was 2 million gallons a day.
Yeah, I think the first phase, DEC has approved us for 1 million. And the idea is, so then the restriction would just be with that, the existing gravity line at that point. But I think it's going to put us above 500.
Okay. So as long as everybody else moves in
For
the
phase
park,
one.
we should be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully by the time anyone else moves into the park, we'll have phase two done.
We have grand plans to take up the entire park anyway, Tracy. So
I know you do.
Is everything okay with the city, some gallonage and, that?
Yeah,
We
the
got a
city's
letter or something saying that?
the city's been engaged in this process all along. They did submit a letter to DEC saying that they're fine with phase one, and there's some additional flow studies we'll need to do for phase two for DEC anyway. So they did commit to phase one, but they don't seem to have a concern about phase two either.
Have DEC permit to do phase one and phase two. With phase two, if it goes over a certain amount of, gallonage or however you measure sewage, we may have to report to them what that is, and they will work with the city to make sure that that's adequate. But we're well within their anticipated and our
That's correct, Herb. So where DEC has preliminarily approved and is in the process of the final approval for the first 1,000,000 gallons. So we can go ahead and build phase 1 and phase 2. Once we look to get up to that 2 million, we'll need an additional approval from DEC.
If the people that are involved, you know what the price of phase 1 is, do you not? I don't have the engineering cost, but the bid price was 81,290, and we already have a grant for 20% of that. So there's about $65,000 that somebody needs to come up with for the first phase. The second phase, which is of course the large phase, hopefully we're going to have 70% funding instead of 20%. So there probably will be some debt service on the balance of the second phase. And that's why I hope they were here so everybody understands where we are.
So I have a question about what the volume restriction is right now, because our plant's 24/7, like across the street, but our volumes are so much less. You know, we're 50,000 to on the worst day 100,000 gallons a day. You know, so when phase 2 and when they tie their line into the street, will the street be able to handle our current volume and their increased volume?
That's a question that should be answered, but it's got to be answered by our engineer.
The answer is yes. Yeah. The answer is yes. So Grover's flow was taken into consideration with all the design and the preliminary engineering. So Grover's flow is included in those calculations to make sure that we can accommodate both.
We had discussed this 6 months ago.
The reason we went to Wisconsin for this engineering program is that he's used to these type of projects. And I'm sure that you understand what your needs are going to be and that he's designed this to comply with those needs. But to ask us here without him, speaking for myself, I need him to back us up. We don't want to get into the position that we did when you first came there, that our engineer at that time told us we had plenty of capacity for you, and apparently that was not the case. And I am in hopes that this is going to be very adequate for both of your needs.
Yes. The plan is that it will be more than adequate for both of your needs, especially once we get that force main built. Because once the first phase is done, the pinch point becomes the gravity line, which still has capacity on it.
Does that include Kevin taking over the rest of the park?
Phase 2 will.
Phase 2 will?
I would hope it would be enough, but that's about where the city was comfortable. So the feedback we got from them at this point was that they would be comfortable with the 2 million, and once we get beyond that, there would need to be some additional conversation. So if the IDA wanted to continue to do the engineering and the oversight as their contribution and continue to fund that, then yes, Herb's for the phase 1, it is the 65,000 that we are looking to fill. If you want to include the engineering costs all over, it's about 100,000 we're looking to fill. So this was, at your request, this is a conversation to bring the tenants into the conversation to discuss filling that financing gap, the 65,000 that you pointed to, or the 100,000 if you include the engineering costs, and to move the project forward, because someone's got to pay for it. You know, it is typically with infrastructure projects, you can ask Debbie, a lot of the times what happens is it's bonded and then billed back to the customers on their bills, but that is a complicated factor for this situation, since we are transferring ownership once everything is built out. So bonding is not necessarily the best path forward.
I'm speaking from my view rather than facts, I guess, but I would think the second phase, the balance of that would end up being a debt service to the people who are going to use that forest main, which is not only the two plants that are there now that use it, but the vacant places in the mall or in the facility there, they would have some debt service on that too.
If we're going to try to bond it and have some debt service for it, we would need to work with the Water and Sewer Authority, the Sewer and Water Authority with Doug to see what that mechanism looks like.
I have personally no problem figuring out how to handle the second phase.
Yeah,
That's
phase one
why
is.
I was very, very concerned to try to, with everybody beat me up, try to reduce the cost of the first phase because that's the one that we do not have the funding for. So it's a very simple formula how to deal with the capital cost of the second phase that's not covered with the grants. The first phase is the only thing that I have. But and that I can't remember your engineering cost, but if the first phase is 65,000 for construction cost, how much more would be added to that?
So from what Proof sent us, the total engineering and oversight cost is about 48,000. So
why would there be 48,000 on a $65,000 project?
it's so the whole project is 81. The engineering is 14. The main cost is the oversight. The oversight what he sent as oversight was about 33,000. So we can go out and quote that, but that's what I have right now as a cost.
I would think that that's unreasonable. Have a oversight thing of 50% of the cost of the entire.
The construction is 81. Remember, the 65 is the gap we're trying to fill on the construction component. But yes.
20%, I'm deducting 20% from the engineering too.
Nope, the 81 only covers the construction. So the 65 is only 80% of the 81,000.
Yeah, but do we not get 20% for the oversight and engineering?
We do. That's where we get up to 100,000 of the gap that we're trying to fill, assuming the 33,000 oversight cost. So it's 65 if you're only considering the construction. Once you add the other things in, it's about $100,000 gap.
I don't think that that's reasonable. There's no sense about arguing about it here because, but if the construction cost is 81,000 and our part of that is 65,000, the engineering on that can't be.
The engineering.
The engineering and oversight can't be $30,000.
The engineering is 14,500.
Yes.
The oversight is 33 that he sent.
That's entirely too much.
So we can go out and look for quotes for that, for a local firm to work on that. That's just the number I have. But if you at least include the engineering costs, we're looking at about 76,000 now that is not covered by the grant, not including the oversight costs.
And I don't know whether they have the ability. What was that?
I don't know for the oversight.
Rick is saying that typically it's an engineer that does the oversight and the authority does not have an engineer. I know Janine is here, but where did Janine go? Oh, Janine's still on the phone.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Carl or Jane. You get Carl or Jane. contract including that.
Say that to Janine. See what Janine thinks.
Today, could the Cuyahoga County Water and Sewer do the oversight?
We'd have to look at it a little bit closer, Andy. Yeah, that's Andy, right?
Yeah.
We have a meeting tomorrow at 1:00, so we can certainly
Yeah.
discuss that.
Yeah. We can take a look at it. I mean, we'll do as much as we can, but as far as, having engineering oversight, I don't know what, DEC would specifically be looking at as far as their oversight, what they want to see as far as oversight. I don't know if that would factor into it, but we can take a look at it.
Yeah, so it's, Rick is saying that typically you would need an engineering stamp on the final as built, I assume.
Right, that's why I'm thinking maybe we can do portions of it, but we still have to have an engineer, so.
Okay, so we'll look at that
Tracy,
further. Yes.
Tracy, ask Kevin Buckland is there, if they could piggyback, because we have a certain segment of the project ourselves that they're gonna project manage. Maybe they can give a discount if they do both at the same time.
Oh,
You're already
that's
on
good.
the table with this quote.
Oh, that's a discounted price? Okay.
I did talk to Chris about that because I knew that you had already sent me your contract with him, so I did put that on the table, and this is still what he sent. So.
Yeah. And we need to be able to, make sure that the city gets what they need to,
Yeah.
because they're going to want to see the oversight.
Yeah, I'll get some additional quotes. Yeah. So we're back to the question at hand of funding the first phase. We know that there's a gap of somewhere between $76,000 and $100,000. I know previously Kevin had offered to buy land to help offset some of this cost. I don't know if that offer is still on the table, but
Well, I mean, I'll just throw it out there. I haven't had time to digest everything, but we are going to be expanding in the future, so we will look at any kind of trade or offering to take things, back. I mean, we're not going to own a sewer line, but we'll own something else that's in the park of value. So it's always an option. Or, it can come off a pilot agreement in the future, something to that effect.
yeah, but then you're going to be paying legal fees on renegotiating a pilot.
I have a monthly legal fee anyway, Tracy.
So, Tracy,
Yes.
are we looking for a vote right now?
I don't think there's a vote. I think we're just trying to get everybody in the loop. And I think, to the extent that we can find a way to fund this with all the parties involved, that's kind of where we're trying to get. But there's not a vote necessarily to be taken.
And we're talking about $60,000 to $100,000 gap.
Yes.
We're also talking about there's a time constraint where we need to do this sooner than later.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
And it's not advisable for us to wait for another month.
It's
Go on, as far as I'm concerned, and we need to deal with you in a fair way as to who pays what part of this. I'm speaking just for myself. The IDA has some responsibility to put some money into this because we did not provide the sewage needs that you had to begin with. But I would, just me, I would think it would be fair if the two plants that are going to use it could come up with a reasonable amount of money, and the IDA come up with a reasonable amount. Let's not get into selling real estate. That's only complicated.
Yep. I was just bringing up what have come up before.
I know. I would ask you to come up with some reasonable reasonable amount of funding for this first phase, because to get it in a hurry, we have to not apply for 50% grant funding on this. The 50% additional grant funding on the second phase is going to make that very, very reasonable. But this first phase, somebody's going to have to pay for, and we're going to do the construction. And as far as I'm concerned, I would like to work with you all and us to come up with a fair way of paying for this. And we got to cut down that oversight.
Yes, we will cut down the oversight.
I would say that it's 14,000 for engineering, minus 20% off of that. And then whatever the oversight is, that's what the cost of this first phase is going to be. Okay, there's no sense of beating this to death.
Okay.
I think it might be something we should even propose to them.
What I would like to do is get a firm price on the oversight, so we know how many dollars we're talking about, and how much of that is covered with the 20%, so we have a base number of what this first phase is going to cost, and then if you're all convenient, sit down with you, come up with something that's fair.
More to come. I'll get something out for the oversight piece this week or next week and try to get something back quickly. And then maybe we can set up a special meeting to review those, but prior have a conversation about those costs.
Yes, we could have a special meeting with them, and
Yep.
we should have the engineer there.
Yep.
At least on the phone, because they have some questions about capacity. And instead of us, me trying to guess at it, we should have the engineer available to talk to you all.
Yeah, and he's also their engineer, so.
Yeah, that's right.
So they can ask him any day.
Question.
Available today, and I think we're on track to get this done in the time that
Quick question for clarification, Tracy. If this first phase is still going to be owned by the town of Aurelius, correct? Or is it going to the Cuyahoga County Sewer and Water Authority immediately?
I need to look into that. I'm in hopes that that first phase will end up going into the fourth main line and will be part of what the Water and Sewer Authority takes over. I'm not sure of that.
Yes.
So
It will eventually. There might be a short time frame where some of that maintenance is done in between phase 1 and phase 2, that the maintenance that we work with the town on the maintenance of that phase, or we work something else out with the ownership might not transfer right away.
to accommodate what I think the desires are, we're trying to get town of Aurelius separated from you people so that there's not a continued
But the whole system, including phase 1 and phase 2, will go to the Sewer and Water Authority is the plan right now.
Yeah, the only reason I'm asking, it's a point of clarification because I don't want to pay twice. Meaning there's certain rules and requirements around the sewer district, so that the cost will get shared pro rata. But if we're going to come out of pocket for a larger section of the capital, I want to share pro rata because we end up paying twice. So that's why I'm asking the question. So just let us know. Just come back to us with your formal ask, and we can respond.
Yeah, we'll start working with the Sewer and Water Authority about how that intermediary stage will work between after phase 1 is built and phase 2, before phase 2 is built, because the plan is to have the whole thing pushed over to the authority, but just what happens in between the two phases, I think, is the question.
We'll try to have the answers to all of these questions when we have the next meeting with everybody to go over the funding.
Yep.
And if you have any additional questions, get them to us so we can answer them.
And did you have another question, Kevin?
So I was just gonna say that our portion, you probably, I don't know if you got that proposal, Tracy, but our portion to do from our site out to the road is about 52,000. Just so everybody knows. That's how we're going to get that out to the road. Whatever else you're talking about. We're already planning to spend that 52,000 for our portion.
So Kevin was just clarifying that CMI's portion to get the lateral from the road to the pipe is about 52,000. So they're putting in that investment already. Who?
And what exactly does that do?
That basically connects the manhole that comes out of our wastewater treatment center, connects that manhole to the manhole in the city, and it expands everything to a 12-inch pipe. Puts in, connects the two manholes, and then expands the pipe size up to 12 inches. All the way to the middle of the road, all the way to Eagle Drive. Gets it off our property to Eagle Drive, and then you from that manhole on Eagle Drive down to the gravel road, I guess. We have our portion to get it out to Eagle Drive, and then Eagle Drive to the gravel road is phase 1. That's the piece we need done by June.
So, yep. So Kevin is just saying that their portion is to get the line from the facility to Eagle Drive, where it hooks into the pipe that we are looking to build. And that's the 52,000 that they'll be investing as well. He also gave some very specific numbers about the size of the pipe in the manhole, but Taylor, for your purposes.
Thank you.
Great.
All right, Tracy, all done with me?
All done with you. Have fun with the senator.
Yeah, Senator Schumer is going to get an earful because we're not on the vaccination list yet. So we'll see how he responds. See you later.
See if he has any money.
They have lots of money. It's like candy in Washington.
I know, it's
Tracy.
like candy right now. Just get us like 65. It'll be fine.
Kevin?
I'll try.
Hey, Kevin, Alice?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
Debbie. So you could call your town clerk and get on the list for COVID.
How?
Are you 1B?
No, Cuomo has left us off the 1B list. The CDC has us in the 1B, but Cuomo took us off.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, sorry.
Maybe I have become incarcerated because incarcerated criminals can get vaccinated.
They're all getting $1,400, aren't they?
All right. Before I go way downhill, I'm going to get off. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Janine, you can be expecting a call from me soon.
Yes, I was just going to say before I got on, it was hit and miss with my phone call. Sorry, I couldn't hear every word, but I want to catch up with you before the end of the week.
Yep. I'll give you a call tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay. That's the sewer. We did the audit. CCIDA staff update. Paul, if it's okay with you, I'll combine that with the ready recipient update.
Obviously, everything you do is okay with me.
Great. So now I don't remember what I was going to say. So for ready recipients, Taylor has been working with those. Right, Taylor, do you want to give an update on the ready recipients and where those are?
Yeah. So Tracy has reviewed the 2 applications that have come in, and she's given a list back to them in regards to what they need to fix. At the moment, I'm still waiting on the 3rd application. I'm having trouble getting in contact with him. He holds 2 of the businesses that have work that needs to be done. So he takes up a big portion of this. The other 2 have submitted theirs. And that's pretty much just a trace. We're trying to have this back for next month to bring to the board. So I'm working with them to get that back in time for the April meeting.
And so, yeah, so we're gonna bring you something next month, whether we have his or not. We're just gonna tell him we need your application. It won't be included if we don't get it, because right now it's holding up everybody else. So we'll have something for you next month on that. There are two other things. One of them is actually sewer line related. The town is doing a review of our final engineering designs for the sewer line. They typically ask for a $5,000 engineering deposit. So I just wanted to see if the board is comfortable getting that taken care of. They would return any fees that were not used for the engineering review. So just like we make everybody pay for our professional services fees, they're asking us to do that for their engineering review. So the town has an engineer, B&L, Barton and LaJudas, I believe, is the town's engineer. So they would be. It's going through their line first. The gravity line is theirs.
Can we repeat that question? We did not hear that.
Rick is asking why the town needs to review the designs, and for phase one, before we have the force main built, the Eagle Drive line will still go into Aurelius's gravity line until phase two is built. They're asking for $5,000 deposit, but if they don't use the entire 5,000, they would return the rest.
So they have to okay it anyway, at some point. They have
Yes.
to okay it.
Yes.
Okay, legally?
I can't.
Yeah, it's very normal to, yeah.
Rick is just talking through the legality and what the town's review, why the town's review is reviewing, but it's because we're using their line between phase one and phase two.
Be able to see itemized bills from that engineer, even though it's town engineer. Build it correctly. Oh.
Tracy, I would.
Good thing you've been carrying it around. The board may want to consider, as part of its motion, for this, to be able to review the itemized bills from the town engineer when he's billing against the $5,000 retainer that the town is going to be looking at.
Tracy, I would move that we approve up to 5,000 with the stipulation, as Rick said, that we have the ability to review the expenses associated with it.
Thank you, I'll second it. Okay, motion's on the floor, all in favor? Thank
Aye.
you. That passed. What's next, Trace, do you want to do?
I think so one other thing I wanted to put on your radar is that Abundant, which we approved for the County House Road project back at the end of last year, in the fall last year. As expected, they are looking to do an assignment. This is how these projects work. They typically, after construction, they're doing it a little early, but they are working with Justin to get some assignment paperwork together. So probably at next month's meeting, you'll see an assignment request from Abundant for that array. We're just getting all the ownership details in place to get that request put together. So this is just a heads up that you are going to be seeing that soon. This is pretty standard operating procedure. We've done a couple of them in the past. We did one with Inns of Aurora when it transferred from wells to PTR. So it's not anything extensive, just something that's coming your way. I think that's good. I've got a bunch of stuff for executive session, but I think that's good for now.
Okay, is, motion for executive session, is that what you want to do?
I would love that.
Okay.
Can I add, on the agenda, it's motion for executive session for matters involving the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property. Could we also add contract negotiations as well?
Absolutely. All in favor?
Was there a motion?
Yes.
I did not hear it. I don't know.
Who was the motion?
Well, make one up.
I'll move, Tracy, I will move to go into executive session.
John and Tracy seconded it.
And Gina seconded it. Okay.
All in favor? Aye.
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 anything on the upcoming events or anything?
Do we have a motion to come out?
Yes.
Herb,
I did.
Herb, John? Okay.
Yep.
Upcoming events are on your packet. There's also some upcoming ABO trainings. If anyone is interested in signing up for a refresher, please let us know. They are out to April at this point. There's 2 Wednesdays in April that they have trainings available. They are webinars.
Are these events all Zoom or live?
They are. They're all virtual. So you can sign up at cuyacountychamber.com/events. State of the city, schools, county, should be good stuff. But yes, all virtual.
Second.
I'm ready.
Also, thank you, Tracy, what the, signed by somebody?
I will sign them.